So I'm Abigail McQuatters-Gollop, and I'm a lecturer in marine conservation at University of Plymouth. So I'm a plankton ecologist, and plankton are microscopic algae and animals that live in the marine environment. So what's really important for marine policy and marine management is understanding how organisms such as plankton or fish or dolphins or whales respond to human pressures like fishing or shipping, and also other wider human pressures like climate change and ocean acidification. So if we can understand the response of the marine environment to these human activities, we can help managers and policymakers put in place laws that regulate the human activities that ensure that we manage the marine environment sustainably. So the work that myself and my colleagues are doing in this area, I think, is really critical in the UK, in Europe, and even globally for making sure that we have a sustainable way of managing our marine environments, and so that our marine environments are healthy and biologically diverse for future generations to enjoy. I think that we're doing a lot to protect our marine environment, but I definitely think we should be doing more. So in the UK, for example, we have a network of marine protected areas, but in a lot of these marine protected areas, you can still fish. And not only does that take fish from the ecosystem, but that actually puts pressure on the marine habitat itself. And our marine environment is also under pressure from climate change, for example, or ocean acidification. So we could be doing more to protect the marine environment from these pressures by making it more resilient, by controlling the way that we fish, or where we anchor our boats, or generally kind of making a healthier marine environment to begin with. The European Union has been really helpful in enabling the UK to protect our marine environment to the best of our ability. For example, the European Union is the one that decided we need to have a list of vulnerable habitats and species that we need to protect. They've helped us put in place our Marine Protected Area Network. And right now, they're helping the UK and all the countries in Europe manage our marine biodiversity. So that's not just a number of species, but it's all the species that we've got in the marine environment as well as the marine habitats. So in the UK, we've got beautiful marine habitats, we've got kelp forests, we've even got deep water coral reefs. And now the EU has put legislation in place to help us look after and protect these environments. The UK marine environment is vulnerable when we leave the EU if we don't put in place strong and concrete protection to look after our marine environment as we have when we're part of the European Union. So for example, in Europe now, we're thinking about managing our marine environment holistically, so thinking about all parts of the marine environment, so fish, habitat, species like dolphins and seabirds, but also considering humans and how we use the marine environment. And this is called an ecosystem or integrated approach. And if we're going to successfully manage UK marine habitats and UK marine species and UK fisheries, we need to implement this ecosystem-based approach in the UK when we leave Europe. A lot of times when we think about how do we manage the marine environment, fisheries is the first thing that we think about. And fish are very important to the UK and to our economy, but we can't have healthy fish stocks if we don't have a healthy, wider marine environment. So what we need to really think about is how do we manage the marine environment holistically with our fish stocks. So not just thinking about the fish that we take from the ecosystem through fishing, but the habitats that support those fish and the spawning areas where the fish lay their eggs. We need to protect all of our marine habitats as well as the species that live in them, and start thinking about an integrated, holistic system of management. And we're approaching that with our European management, but we need to really think about doing that for the UK so that when we leave the EU, we still have this holistic style of ecosystem-based management. To ensure that we have a sustainable marine fishery, we need to make sure that we listen to scientific advice from the fishery scientists about what our quotas are like for each species. So instead of changing the advice from the fishery scientists, we need to set quotas based on their advice. And we also need to think about, when we fish, how does that affect the rest of the marine ecosystem? So trawling, for example, can damage the marine habitats that grow on the bottom of the seafloor. So what can we do to regulate trawling? So if we have a marine protected area, maybe we should close it to fishing. So at least we have some parts of the UK marine environment where we know that fish stocks and marine wildlife have a refuge or a safe place to live and grow. And if we do that, what we'll find is called the spillover effect. So we'll find more fish and bigger fish just outside the MPA. So it's actually really good for our marine environment if we set aside areas to protect really rigorously, and that supports healthy and sustainable fish stocks. By working with scientists, policymakers can ensure that marine policy and fisheries policy are based on the best available scientific evidence and the best scientific advice. This science-policy relationship is actually really critical for making sure that we manage our marine environment and our marine fisheries in a way that's sustainable and that protects them for future generations, but that we can still use them commercially for fishing or use the marine habitat for diving. And the scientists are the ones that are collecting the data, analyzing the data, running the models, understand kind of the historical scientific picture. And the advice from the scientists is really, really crucial for policymakers to make decisions that are based on scientific evidence rather than other factors like political pressure.